All right, so we are back. I've started up our next recording. So for those of you who are watching at home, if you haven't already, please make sure that you watch the first video. I went over a lot of announcements that are very important for this week, and we also went over the discussion, and we went over the week 4 assignment, looking at what is expected of you for this week. So as I said in the first video, you kind of can do one of two things for your assignment this week. You can either continue to work in the file for week 3, or you can make a copy of the week 3 file. So if you are going to continue working in the assignment folder, make sure that it's named either assignments week 3 to 4, or you've renamed the folder to week 4, something like that. If you want to create a new folder for week 4, I'll show you right now how to do that. Let me move this out of the way. There we go. So you'll notice I have my Finder window open with a folder for week 3, and then I have another Finder window open with a folder for week 2. So if I want to make a copy of the week 3 folder, I'm going to select it and hold down Option and drag over onto week 4. I'll get that little plus sign, and I can move that over and then work out of my week 4 folder. Again, it's really up to you what you want to do, how you want to do this. I am going to personally open up my original folder and just work out of my original folder. For me, I don't like having multiple folders going with multiple assignments named a similar way. All right, so you'll notice I opened this up since I packaged this, and I must have moved some things around. Or something happened. Something weird happened over here because my images are missing. My cyber tips are missing, and oh, that's why. My cyber tip and my how to succeed are missing. So I'm going to copy those back into my links folder because I had moved them since I started working. And then I'm going to relink them. So if this ever happens to you, where you see the missing link, which would be the red question mark, what you're going to do is you can actually select all of the ones that are missing. And you want to go to the little lock icon, which when you hover over it, it says relink. I'm going to click on that. And ooh, I bet you I forgot to move graduation ad. There it is. I put it all in that used folder. And I'm going to go back into my folder, into links. And the first one is asking for Cyber Tip Aware. I'm just going to select Cyber Tip Aware and hit open. And it's going to say, we also found and relinked 2 missing links. Even better, just hit OK, and it relinks all of them. So if you ever find yourself missing, your images are missing, you want to make sure that you relink those. All right, so where we left off in week 3 was we had created page 1, and we had created page 4. And we were working off of a couple of different layers. My first layer had my example in the master, and then I also had a layer that showed the originals, which I had placed on, on that layer, and then locked it. And then we were creating our newsletter on a layer above this. So that's okay. If you accidentally did all 4 pages, then you're really good going into this week. Your assignment is pretty much done. All you will need to do is you will just need to see what my feedback was and fix my feedback, and then you'll be good to go. So yeah, I mean, there are worse things that could happen than working ahead, believe me. So what we're going to do first off is why don't we take a look at some of the things that people had some problems with this week, and then we'll work on pages 2 and 3. So one of the things that a couple of people might have had problems with was not placing their images, but trying to copy and paste their images from like Illustrator into InDesign. So I want to make sure that people are placing their images properly by doing a file place, not copying and pasting those images, from InDesign or from Illustrator into InDesign. You want to make sure that you are placing them properly. Also, you may have gotten a message from me saying to give your text some breathing room between the edges of the border over here and the text. So you want to make sure that you're just kind of closing up this text box a little bit on both sides, so you have a little bit of a margin so the text isn't running right into the border. Another thing, and this has happened to a couple of people accidentally had a border on their text boxes. So you just want to double check that you've taken that border off. Sometimes it can default to doing that. And if you're not sure if you have one, because it's kind of hard to see with all of these guides, if you go down here and you go to the view and put it on preview, you'll be able to see if there's accidentally a border, because it kind of removes those other borders that you can't really see. The other thing that people had difficulty with was forgetting to put in the tabs in the table of contents. So again, remember, you need to set up those tabs as a paragraph style, or you can set them up the way I showed you this week, which is putting everything into this text box, all your table of contents into this text box, and going to, let me leave this view. Let me go back to normal view. Type and then tabs, and you can add it in right here. So you want to do a right side tab, which is this arrow, and you want to put the leader, where it says leader, put a period in there, and that will add in those dots for you. So make sure that you have that table of contents set up correctly. Also, make sure that you are putting the footer area, which is the month and year, and the student matters, and that line, that dark blue line, that is in your master page, not on your actual pages. And make sure that you are then designing on page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, that you're not accidentally designing in your master pages. I've seen people have a little bit of difficulty with that as well. And then as far as doing the page numbers, I'll show you where that is again. So what you would do is go into type, insert special character, markers, and you want to put current page number. And yes, I'll definitely show the tabs again. Hold on one second. I feel like that's always a thing that is a little bit difficult to explain. So what you're going to do, you have your full text box with the table of contents. So you're going to go up to type and tabs, and it's going to open up this tabs panel. So you're going to want to select the right justified tab, and then drop the arrow right as far as you can get to the edge of your text box that you've created. And then to add in the periods, where it says leader, you're just going to put a period in there and hit enter. That's just adding in anything that you want in between where that tab is. If I put in a question mark, it would add in question marks. If I put in a dash, it would add in dashes. If I put in the period, the periods are back. So that's how you have that set up. You know, you could even, you know, get fancy. I've seen people do like period space, period space. Ugh, come on. Which it doesn't want to do right now. Oh, whoops, that's because I didn't have it selected. You guys select the arrow to fix it. Period, space, period, space. There we go. So you can, you know, there's lots of different things that you can do. Come on. And then you can just close that window out. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you put in the tabs. All right, so those were the things that I saw that people were having some difficulty with. The other thing was making sure that your text boxes are lined up to your baseline grid. So this was set up in our body copy paragraph style. Whoops, I need to do that. So if you go in, find where it was. You want it to be in indents and spacing, and you want it to align to grid all lines. And that will line up your copy right on that baseline grid. However, your headers, you probably don't want to do that because that should not be set up. So that's why your headers are a character style. And if you find that they weren't going where you wanted them to go, what you needed to do was make sure that you just had them on basic paragraph under the paragraph style, and then the header under the character style. So that fixes that. I think those were really the only things that I saw people were having some issues with in week 3. So all around, pretty good job this week. You know, this is quite the undertaking, and you know, I was definitely proud of the work that I saw this week. All right, so let's design. Well, let's not really design, but let's do weeks 2 or pages 2 and 3. So I'm going to open up my layers panel. And I'm going to unlock my originals and turn that on because I want to place my PDF for page 2 and my PDF for page 3 where, you know, over here. So that way I can redesign it on my newsletter layer. So I'm going to go up into File, Place, and go to my mock-up, and I need to show import options because I need to be able to navigate over to page 2 and navigate over to page 3. So I'm going to open it up. It's going to default to page 1. So I'm going to use the right arrow, or you can just type in the number 2 and hit OK. And this page looks like it needs to be placed right up to the edge. And it does. So make sure you've got it at the 0 and the 0 and the XY. So you got placed right up to the edge. And then I'll place page 3, doing the same thing. File, Place, or Command D. Navigate over to page 3. Hit OK. This one's the same. And this one needs to be at 8.5 in the X and 0 in the Y. And then I'm going to lock that originals layer so that way I can work on my newsletter layer and I don't accidentally move this around. And I also don't accidentally design it on top of the original on the same layer. So let's start by adding in the images first. I think that that's probably going to be a little bit easier. So this one's probably called study time, if I had to guess. Do a File, Place, and study time 1. You can turn off the show import options because you don't need it for the JPEGs. Open. And I'm going to need to manually crop this to match this picture. So it looks like it's cropped down to his head and then right up to the edge of the book. Oops. Like this. Bring it up. And that looks pretty good. All right, and then this one was, I believe, study time 2. So again, file place. Come on. All right, so this one is going to need some cropping too. So I'm going to crop him a little bit. Get to the top of his head. Open this up. I'm going to manually select this with my white arrow. I'm going to hold down Shift and Command and drag this corner. And then select it again. Oh, there it is up here. Drag this. The bit of his head was cropped off, I believe. Move it over. And you don't need to be exact. Just, you know, try to get it as close as you can. Again, I'm holding down Shift and Command, so I'm scaling this proportionally. I think that's pretty much as close as I'm going to get it. Bring that back over. And then I'll draw this box while I'm over here. Yep, that's another option that you can do. I'll show that option as well for these 2 images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same exact thing for this blue square that I had done for page 1. And if you want, you know, it might be easier for you to go up to page 1 and either hold down the Option key or do an edit, copy, edit, paste. I'm going to select it, hold down the Option key and drag, and that makes a copy of the box because it's already set up with the border and the color that you need it to be. So, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Drag that over. And then what you can do is the same thing we did during week 1, just go to the fill color and just turn it to none for right now. And that way we can work on top of it. So the other way that you can proportionally fit your content, your images, is you can go to your rectangle frame tool, draw a box the size you need it, and then do file place. This one is healthy snacking. And then go up into object, fitting, and you want to fit content proportionally. And it might, you know, you might need to, it might not fit that frame that you filled or that you drew all the way. So what you're going to then need to do is go to object, fitting, and you want to fit content to frame. Ooh, but proportionally, come on. Object. Fitting. Fill frame proportionally. There we go. So that should have done it. And I don't remember if these have a border. Let's double check. They do not. I'll do the same thing with this image. I'm gonna draw my square. File, place, or Command D. This one is, oops, healthy snacking 2. And then we'll go object, fitting, fill frame proportionally. And that should have done that one first try, and it did. Perfect. So next what we can do is we can draw our text boxes and then just start importing in our text. So I'm gonna start it, I like to start at the bottom and then work my way down and around. That's probably the easiest way. So I'm gonna draw my text box for my headline up here. Then I'm gonna draw my text boxes for these 3 columns. So I drew the first one. And you're probably going to have to do the same exact thing that we had to do last week, which is make this a little tiny bit wider than the actual column itself. So I'm going to make the width 2.4 and we'll see how it goes. And then I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to select it with the black arrow, hold down the Option key and click and drag it over and let go. And then do the same thing here. Hold down the Option key, click and drag it over. As you're dragging, use one of your other fingers to hold down Shift. And then I'm gonna close this text box up right to the top of this image. So that way it'll flow and then flow into this page. And what we wanna do this time is we're going to have our text flow not only from column to column on page 2, but it's going to flow from page 2 up into page 3. So I'm going to draw another text box. All right, the same 2.4. Sometimes I just like to get the width right, and then I'll use the black arrow to just extend it down. And right down to the bottom. And then this one, we have a headline, we have almost a 2-column span, and then we have 2 other columns. So I'm going to go from right here to right here for the headline. Click off. Then I'm going to go right here and over for this text box. I'm going to drag it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to make a copy of this one, holding down Option, drag it down, or you can just draw another text box. And I'm going to close it up to about 2.4 again. And bring it down here. And then I'm going to make a copy of this one, holding down Option. I need to make sure that that bullet is lined up over here. So I'm going to move it over and close that down to here. So I should have all of my text boxes drawn at this point. I just think it's easier to have yourself all set up and ready to go, because then it just kind of becomes automation where you're copying and pasting the text in, and then you're going through the character and the paragraph styles and you're filling that in. I think that, you know, the whole point of this is to be a little bit more automated, so we might as well automate our processes. At least that's how it works for me. I'm all about, when I am in InDesign and I am doing things such as menus or things such as newsletters, I am all about the automation, because the quicker I can get something done and get it done correctly, the sooner the job is done and I can work and I can move on to the next paying job. You know, in graphic design, time really is money, especially when you charge by the hour. You know, you may think at first, well, yeah, but if I can milk this for 3 hours, then, you know, I'll get 3 hours worth from my client. But what if you can get it done in an hour, and instead of having one client for 3 hours, you can have 3 clients for 1 hour? 3 clients could eventually equal 3 times the work. So, you know, you want to really think about it that way. That, and I have found that being quick, being efficient, and being correct, people tend to want to go with you. You know, they know that you're not kind of, you know, jerking their chain around. They know that you understand that they're more willing to pay you top dollar. Exactly. Some people will pay more for efficient work. They really will. And that's what I tell people. I say, you know, I might charge more, but you're going to get it done. I'm going to get it done for you ahead of schedule, and I'm going to get it done for you correctly. You know, and that's something that I strive for. So, you know, I really try to show you guys the way that I do things. So that way, you know, if you can at least find a simpler way to do it, or if you find that this is a little bit simpler, hey, I'm all for spreading the knowledge. That is for sure. All right. So let's do the first article to get more out of your study time. Open that up in Word. All right, so I'm going to grab the first headline and just copy and paste it in. And I'm not really going to worry too much about formatting yet. I'll go through and I'll do all of my formatting after. And if you think this is a little bit difficult to see and you're like, I can't tell where my text is, another trick that I have is I will make all of my text, you know, hot pink or some, you know, color I'm definitely not using in my design, so that way it stands out and I can see where I might have forgotten something. So that's another little trick I have. And then we need students balance. Basically the whole rest of this needs to go in. Make sure that's all of it. Copy that. We're going to paste this again into the very first column, but it's not going to, the columns aren't linked yet. Excuse me, sorry. So we're going to zoom in, and where we see that little red box with the plus sign, you need to go to the black select tool or the black arrow. You're going to click on that plus sign until you're going to have to kind of click twice till you get this kind of preview of text, and then just click into the next text box. Then move yourself over. Again, with the click on the red plus sign, so you got to kind of click twice. And then click into that third text box, the third column. And then one more time, because we got to get from page 2 to page 3. Let's click on that plus sign and click on the column over here on page 1 or page 4. No, page 3. Page 1, page 4, page 3. And again, I'm going to turn this pink just so that way I can kind of see the text behind it. All right, and then I'm going to grab the healthy snacking. And again, I'm going to do all of my formatting afterwards. So healthy snacking. Grab this headline. place it in this text box and make it pink. Then I'm gonna grab the whole rest of this. Isn't that much apparently. And paste that in there, and I'm gonna link it through. Although, ooh, there's something I'm gonna need to fix before I do that. So let me get rid of that. You'll notice that it's bullet points over here, but in Microsoft Word, it's set up as numbers. So there's kind of two ways that you can do this. You can either, we need to remove, if you remember from last week, when we were doing the bullet points here, when we copied and pasted them over, we had to use our actual paragraph style bullets to set it up correctly, not the bullets that were in Microsoft Word. So we're probably going to have to do the same exact thing for this one. So what you can do is select this text and just remove the numbers by clicking on them. And we can you can either add in the bullet points just so you can see them and have a visual, or you can remove it all together and add those bullet points in InDesign. I can kind of show you, I'll show you both ways of doing it. So let's say that you added in the bullet points because you need a visual. We'll grab all this and we'll copy and paste it in. And we'll work on this area first, so I can kind of show you both ways while I have that Word file open. So I pasted the text into this first text box that is spanning the two columns. I'm going to go to my black selection tool, click on the arrow or the plus sign with my arrow, and click in here. It's going to give me another plus sign down here. So I want to click, bring that over here. And again, I'm going to turn my text to pink so I can kind of see it. All right, so I've got healthy snacking. Let me close this up a little. So this is definitely, I want to make sure, because this is a headline, so I want to make sure first things first, I select it and I go to basic paragraph because I don't want it to stick to, although this one does stick to, I don't have to do that. This one does stick to the baseline grid. It just happens to, so I can actually leave it right there. And this might be header 2, I think. That looks correct. I'm going to center it. Let's see. Yep, that looks right. And then my first paragraph has a drop cap. So I'm going to go into my paragraph style and go to drop caps. And might need to open this up just a smidge more. Right there. So 4.64 seems to be the magic number for my font. All right, so this is set up right now where I haven't, whoops, I haven't taken out the bullet points. The bullet points are still in here from Microsoft Word. So I'm going to select these two columns of text and I'm going to go to bullets, and you'll notice that it's going to add the bullet point in, but it's going to, let me turn off that layer for a second so you'll be able to see a little bit better. It kind of has two bullet points now. So I need to remove that other bullet point. So I can, again, just kind of backspace and remove it in InDesign if I need to, or if you left it as numbers, you can backspace and remove those numbers. Or what you can do, the other option was to remove the bullet points in Microsoft Word by clicking on them or just clicking on the numbers, so it just looks like plain old text, and then copy that in. Start right here. I'm gonna turn this back to body copy. or basic paragraph, so none. Copy that in. And then we'll do bullets and see how it added those in, but without the extra bullets. Oh yeah, you can definitely do that too. I can definitely show you how to do that. I think I need to close this up. So I had turned off, so you guys could see a little bit better, my original. But what you can do is you can change the opacity of this. So let me unlock it. So I'm going to click on this layer and I'm going to go up to my opacity and I can bring that down to about like 40%. So that way you can why didn't it do the whole thing? Or did it? Nope, it did my one text box. Hold on. There we go. Click off. Original. So you can click on the actual files. I thought that, I'm pretending I'm in Photoshop right now. Click on these two links and go up and turn that to 40%. There we go. And then lock it again. So you can still see it in the background, but it's not at 100%, which might make it a little bit easier for you. And I'm gonna need to, now that I've done that, I can see that I might need to close these up just a little bit. And I think that there is an extra return. Nope, that just went to the next line. Popcorn went to the next line. Might need to close it up even a little bit more. There we go. And close this up a little bit more. There we go. And then I'm gonna manually, holding down Shift and Enter, move is, and that takes care of that line. And again, you don't have to be exact, but if you do want to be exact, that's why I'm kind of taking the time to show you how to do it and make it exactly how it is in the example. Again, just try to get it as close as possible. You can tell that I'm working in a different version of times than the person who designed this was. As long as things are lined up correctly, that's really what I'm looking for. And then I might even need to bump this over a smidge that way. So 11.718, I'm going to copy this because I'm going to also bump this over to 11.7178. And change this one just to 14. Nope, oops. 14.098. Which might seem crazy, but you know, if you're gonna do it right. All right, so let's take a look at that. That looks good. Before we forget, select the box and you're going to turn on the blue color again. It was set at 15%. And let's save this file. We've already done a lot, even though it's just, just one column. All right, next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on my get more out of your study time. Now this headline does not lay on the baseline grid. So what I want to do is I'm going to select that text and I'm going to go up to basic paragraph to get it off of the baseline grid. And then I'm going to go to character styles and headline 1. And I'm going to center it. Or is it not centered? Let's see. Oh, it's not centered. It's left justified, which is kind of weird. I probably would have centered that, but it's not, so we won't. Then we'll come down here. So this first paragraph has a drop cap. So we're going to go into our paragraph styles and go to drop caps. That looks good. Then let's change the rest of this to the body copy. So I held down Shift and my bottom arrow, and that selected all those lines of text. And change that to the body copy. And you will notice that there is, let's open up the mock-up in Acrobat just to get a better view of it. There is a couple of sub headlines, and we haven't set up, I don't believe, a Times sub headline. We have a header 3, but I'm pretty sure, yes, it is in Helvetica. Or do we have a subhead? Oh, we did a subheader. We might have set that up last week over here. No. Yes? Where did that come from? I don't remember if I set that up or not. I'm gonna have to look in the used. I don't want to tell you to do something and you're like, we did that last week. Let's take a look. Our style sheet, subheader. Yes, 14-point bold and red. We did set that up. All right. Not losing my mind. So this up here should have been set up probably as subheader. There we go. Fix that. All right, so I need to close up this text box a little bit to bump the line, and that bumps it up into the next line. I need to bump this up a little bit. I'm going to have to come back and look at those bullet points. Then we've got your environment matters. That should be your subheader. And we have schedule matters, which is a subheader. And looks like we got to remove a space there, a return. And then learning matters is a subheader. And then we have some bullet points going on down here. So again, what you can do is either in Word, you could have taken out those bullet points, or you can just take them out in InDesign. So I'm just going to take them out in InDesign, manually remove them and the tabs. I think there's that was the last one, I think. And grab this and my paragraph style, bullet. I think I have it in the wrong spot. Hold on one second. Oh, let me double check. Oh, avoid thinking is a bullet. That's what it was. All right. And, oh, looks like we gotta take out a return right here. And let's go over to page 3. And this is running a little bit outside of it, so we're going to close this up. Because you don't want to run into the, where the fold is going to be. And I think we might even be able to close this one up a little. Oh, maybe not. And again, just kind of get it as close as you can. So I'm going to turn off my original and I want to look everything over. Always double check. I will say this. One thing I would not have done is I wouldn't leave the first line of this bullet by itself and then running up into this column personally. And I wouldn't leave this last line going up onto the next page by itself. I would probably fix those items, and we do have some time, and I just think that that's kind of good design. So I'm going to show you how you can fix those if you want to. You do not have to. But, you know, while we're doing this, why not, you know, make this the best design it can be? So these are things that I would do without the original on. And what I would probably do to fix some of these things is, you know, I can start by closing up this text box, and that might bump the line over on its own, closing it up to the margin. And however, then this line bumped up with it, which I don't really want. So let's kind of open that up a little bit. And maybe manually move a couple of things down. I'm using shift enters just to kind of fix. This is the rag. We call this the rag. And maybe close this up a little. Let's see. That did it. Now these are nice and lined up. These are lined up. We have this whole section by itself. And then we've added a couple of more lines, you know, 2 lines over here instead of that 1 line of that paragraph by itself. I think that that kind of fixes that a little bit. And you want to, we'll just open this up just a smidge. And I'm going to manually move we down. I'm going to move that. And I'm going to move it. Oh, and R. So I don't have one word by itself on the last line. I just think that this is gonna, it's set up a little bit better now. This one looks okay. I would probably move, yeah, that's fine. I don't like too many hyphens. Then we can kind of take a look at this. Oops. In the preview, so we can get rid of all of those box edges. It's good. Check over side 1 again. So make sure, you know, nothing fell off. Nothing weird happened. I don't like this bullet point all the way over here by itself, but that's the way we've set them up, so I'm not going to change that. And then again, page 4, don't forget that you don't have the master linked to page 4 down at the bottom. So make sure everything looks good. Save this. And we need to do a file and a package. So I'm going to do file. I'm going to package this. I still haven't figured out why this is extended so far this is new that it started doing this. My Adobe programs have been a mess lately. Make sure I don't have anything missing. Thing looks good. Hit package. Hit continue. Make sure you've turned that original layer off. And now I'm going to go into week 4. I'm going to just package it into week 4, a little bit easier. I'm going to name it assignment 4 folder. I want to make sure I have a high quality PDF in there. So you can do high quality print or you can do PDF X1A. Either one is fine. And hit package and OK. And close that out. Double check my file. I've got my IDML, my INDD, and my PDF file. I've got my fonts and my links. Make sure nothing's missing. Looks good. But not my PDF. Really make sure nothing fell off. My folio's correct, page 1, page 2. Page 3, and page 4. And you can even do it, try to do it side by side if you want. So mine, theirs. You can see that the font's a little bit different, which is fine. This is where we made those changes. Bumping this over here. And page 4. Or page 3, sorry. So again, fix that. And page 4. Looks good. And you can tell my version of Times is just a little bit wider than their version. And honestly, I probably have 75 different versions of Times somewhere located on my machine. It's one of those fonts that it's like everybody seems to have a different version of it. There's almost no standard version of it anymore. All right. So next, what I would do, again, compress and zip this folder. And upload that to week 4. So you can choose the zip folder for your first option. And if you want to, you can click add another file and choose inside of it and grab the PDF and submit it that way. Now, seeing as we have finished this up kind of early, one of the things I'm going to show you is how to add these to your Behance page. If you haven't already set up a Behance page, which is linked to your Creative Cloud, you're going to want to. It's a great place to host all of your portfolio work, all of the work that you have done in your classes. And it's really important to showcase that. So make sure that you log in with the same login as your Creative Cloud. I made the mistake once of basically having 2 different logins, and it was a nightmare. So once you are in there, we can kind of do a full walkthrough of creating a project and everything else, because we do have some time, and I think that, a lot of you have done some great work with your menus, and you're probably going to want to share that with everybody. So the first thing that you will do is create a project. And, you know, the layout of Behance, that's a very good question. The question in the chat was, what is the difference between Behance and Adobe Portfolio? And honestly, not much. Adobe seems to keep coming up with things which is almost a rehash of what they already have. Adobe Muse, which I really like, was honestly a watered down version of Adobe Dreamweaver. You could design a website and the platform to Adobe Muse looked very similar to InDesign, and it did all the coding for you, so you don't have to do any coding. And honestly, I really loved teaching Adobe Muse because it's such a great way to get your feet wet in web. And they decided a couple of months ago, like, we're not going to have Adobe Muse anymore. We're just going to let it fade into the sunset, and that's it. And you know, you can still keep running it on your machine, but we're not going to offer any support, and we're not going to offer any updates. And I was like, that's really a bummer. But at the same time, I understand why they're doing it, because they already had Dreamweaver. So Behance or Portfolio just takes all of the content that's in Behance and it makes it into this generic website that you really don't have a whole lot of control over. And that's about it. So it's kind of the same exact thing as Behance, only it's called Adobe Portfolio. You know, long story short, it's pretty much the same exact thing. Logging into Behance works with the Creative Cloud sign-in info. Yes. So you log in with your email and your password that you would log in to your Creative Cloud with. The same exact thing. All right, so you would create a project, and this is where, again, I don't think that the user interface is very intuitive. It seems a little bit difficult to use the first couple of times, but it really isn't. It's just that some of the things that you want to do, you can't, and there's really no rhyme or reason as to why you can't do them. You can only upload certain file types, and unfortunately PDFs is not one of them. So what you're going to want to do is you're first going to want to upload or fix your PDF. So I'm going to use my week 1 assignment that I created with you guys. I'm going to upload that. I'm going to open up that PDF. And oh, that's a horrible example. Let me go to week 2 with the menu attached. Hold on. There we go. It's like, this is pretty blank. All right, so in Acrobat, so you want to make sure that your PDFs are opening up in Acrobat and that they're not opening up in Preview, which is kind of the default. So if they are by any chance opening up in Preview, which is this program, you can fix that on your machine. It's actually quite easy to do. In your Finder, you're going to select the PDF and you're going to hit Command-I, which is File, Get Info. Where is it? Here. Get Info. And down here where it says Open With, you want to change that to Adobe Acrobat and set it as your default. So that way it will always open up your PDF files in Adobe Acrobat. That's really the program that you should be opening up those files in. But for some reason, your Mac will default to use this Preview app for pretty much everything. It was constantly opening up all of my JPEGs directly into Preview. So I had to change. I did the same thing. I did the Get Info on one file, and I changed it to Adobe Photoshop with my JPEGs. And then what you want to do is hit change all. And that way it'll say use this application to open all documents like this one. So we want to use Adobe Acrobat to open up anything that has the file extension of .pdf. It's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. So once you have that PDF file open in Acrobat, what you're going to do is you're going to do a file, export to, image, and JPEG. And it's going to say, you know, where do you want to send it? What I would probably do is in your DES 105 folder, make a folder that's called Behance DES 105, whoops, 105, hit create, and save those JPEGs there. And it's actually going to break up your pages into, this one of mine was 3 different pages, so it's going to break it up into 3 different Photoshop files or JPEG files, which is great. Takes care of that for you. So here it is. I've got page 1, page 2, and page 3. And I can do the same exact thing with my assignment for week 4 once I'm done. File, export to, image, JPEG. And I'll put them in the same exact folder, that Behance folder. And then just close my PDF file. So I got all my little files I can upload. And it's going to say start building your project. First things first, you probably want to upload some files. So I'm going to go to upload files and navigate over to where I saved those. And I'm going to grab all of them together and hit open. And I'm going to cross my fingers that it uploads everything in order. And it did it backwards. Right? No, it did do it in order. Whew. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. If it did not do it in order, what you can do is it will allow you to fix things. So you can edit styles and layout. So if you go to, like, you can edit your spacing, dividers, headers. This is what I mean about it not being very intuitive. Save that. Oh, if you click on the blue, oh, here we go. Reorder project. That's how you would do it. And then you would just drag the images in the correct order. So let's say I want this page to be above this page. I would just drag it and hit save new order. And that took care of that. And what it does too is it changes your CMYK to RGB. So that's why this blue is a whole lot brighter. There's a couple of colors that look a whole lot brighter. And it might look a little bit fuzzy and low res. That's just because it's a JPEG and there's not too much you can do about that. But people who see it will understand, like, hey, you had to upload a JPEG version of this. So it's obviously not going to be as crisp as a PDF file. All right, so next what you might want to do is, you know, add some labels to your different areas. So I could insert, you know, if I click above here, it's going to say, do you want to insert some media? And I'm going to insert text, and I'm going to name this project. So I'm going to say DES 105, which is, I should know this off the top of my head, page layout tools. And then I'm going to insert another text box, and I'm going to say DES 105, week 1 and 2 assignment, menu, cover, design, and menu design. And then you might even want to put in some of the, you know, some of the specs from the assignment. So navigate back over to week 1 or week 2, possibly, because that was where we finished it. And you can say, you know, 2-page, 8.5 by 11 file. Sorry, another text box. 2-page, 8.5 by 11 file created in InDesign. That's probably good. And once you've added the text in, you can even change the text. So I can make, just by selecting it, so instead of this being a paragraph, I can make, you know, DES 105 page layout tools. I can make this a header. I can make this one a subheader, and then maybe I can make this a caption. Even move this closer to here, hit enter. Can be a subheader. This can be there we go. And then you can do the same thing down here. So you can add a caption. Whoops. Remove that caption. There we go. And do DES 105, week 3 and 4 newsletter project. Again, make this a subheader. And then you can say 4-page InDesign file with folio. Change that maybe to 16 point and a paragraph. And then save it. And what it's going to want you to do once you save it, you're going to have to hit continue. It's going to want you to add a project cover. So it might just add page 1 and say to you, hey, do you want to use this for a project cover? And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you might want to make a custom project cover. For me, this might work. It just might work. And give your project a title. So I'm going to call this DES 105 page layout tools. Oh, yes, that's a great question. There was a question in the chat that says, can I use Behance as my portfolio when applying for an internship? Yes, that would be that. I use my Behance for everything. When I'm trying to get some freelance work, I have my Behance link attached to my my resume. When I sent out my resumes to somebody, I have it as a hyperlink in my resume. Oh yes, I use my Behance portfolio for everything. So once you name it and you pick your cover image, you're going to do crop and continue. And it's going to want you to add in some basic info about the project. Creative fields, how would you categorize this project? I would say that it is graphic design. Done. What tools did you use? So you can say Adobe Creative Suite or Creative Cloud. You can do Adobe InDesign. And then if you worked in Photoshop at all, you can, you know, for the photos, you can say Adobe Photoshop. And then hit done. You know, did anybody help you on this project? You can add a co-owner. Is there any copyright? Does it contain adult content? Yes or no? Display it on Behance. Do you want it to be discoverable? So your project description. So I would say graphic design work for page layout tools course. If you can add the school. If it's in here, I'm not sure. T, done. Then hit publish. Now publish a project. And that gives you a link to even promote it on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, your LinkedIn. So here we go. Everything's in there. And then to get back to your page, you can just click on your name. So here it is. It shows up in your page. So as I was saying, I use my Behance portfolio for everything. Here are like some video tutorials that I've done that I added in. Here's a Muse template that I created. And then unfortunately Muse was like, we're taking down, so the live site no longer works, which is kind of a bummer because I'm gonna have to fix that. I just got an email about that like 2 days ago, which is definitely a bummer. Here's some Photoshop work that I've done. This is my friend's daughter down in Florida. She was on the beach and she said, hey, can you take my arm out of the photo? And I was like, yeah, I'll take these people out too because I'm assuming you don't know them. And, you know, color corrected it a little bit so it looks like she's sitting on the beach by herself. You know, some other work that I've done. You know, just, you know, I like to divide up my projects based on what's going on in them. So I have some graphic design stuff. You know, this one I'll probably not make discoverable because it's not really my design per se. I guess some of it is, but people might get a little bit confused. You know, here's some other work that I've done. So graphic design, you know, Photoshop work, very specific Photoshop work that I used to have to do when I worked for Benjamin Moore. And I have a little bit of a write-up on what it is. You know, some painting and drawing stuff that I've done because, you know, I used to have to do these sort of things when I was in school. I had to take a lot of drawing courses. And kind of when you're a graphic designer doing painting courses, so you think it's funny to make your flowers low res. I thought it was funny at the time. You know, this painting is 15 years old and doesn't even exist anymore. And then, you know, this is all done in pen and ink and it's about 20 by 24. This is up at my mom's house, but you know, you kind of get the idea. If you have some cool stuff that you've done, add it in. I don't do photography professionally, but I like to take photographs, so I added it in. Here's some class work that I had to do when I was in school. I had to make a new logo. I had to draw some icons in Illustrator. So these are some of the icons that I drew. You know, you can definitely do a mix of professional and schoolwork. I always keep my schoolwork in, and I always also keep some of my older work in. And people in the past have asked me why. And the reason why is you want to show a progression of your work. If you're constantly taking your old stuff out and not leaving it in there, I don't think that people, you know, especially potential employers, can see you growing as a designer. So some of my graphic design stuff, I'm like, ooh, that's kind of old. Should I remove it? But, you know, I really don't, because I think it's good to show, you know, a progression of what I've done as a designer. So I've left it in there. You know, is it all some of my best work? No, but you know what? I can say to them, hey, I did this, you know, I did this about 15, 20 years ago. So you can see what some of my old stuff looks like, you know, compared to how I do stuff now. I think that it's great to show that type of progression. Now, as far as Adobe Portfolio, you can actually, you could at one point, oh, here we go. There's a link to Adobe Portfolio. What it's going to do is it's just going to take all of my stuff from Behance, and it's going to make a My Portfolio site where you can build it and edit your portfolio. And again, there's not a ton, or at least there wasn't a ton of, you know, what you could do, changing the layout as much. You can switch themes. I feel like it's kind of like working in WordPress where you pick a theme and then that's kind of it. So let me see. Let me see what else they have for themes. Let me try this one. And what it does is it will take all of your work and put it into that theme, and you can preview it. So my name, projects. I don't know why I changed the font. That was kind of weird. Whoops. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. I feel like it's the same exact thing as Behance. You know, the layout's not even that great. You know, you can somewhat change it, but I guess you can, well, this is new. Now you can add a form and other things. That's actually new. You couldn't do that before. So people can contact you. But, you know, that's kind of getting into way more than what we need to do. But I do think it's good, you know, each week to kind of add your stuff to your portfolio because, you know, when you get to the end and all of a sudden you have all of these projects, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So if you add them each mod, I think it's going to become way more manageable for you. You're going to be used to working in Behance at that point too, because you're going to be in there all the time, and you'll learn how to do little tweaks to make it work best for you. And, you know, it's all about being familiar in the program that you're in. All right, so we kind of ended a little bit early today. Is there anything that anybody would like me to go over one more time before we end? I know it's kind of a lot of stuff, but this week's very, very similar to last week, which is why I kind of showed you how to link those text boxes last week and everything. So that way it was more repetition this week and not throwing a whole bunch of new stuff at you. Yep. Well, that's what I was just doing, was uploading that to Behance. So I uploaded those files, the JPEG files, and once I uploaded them, it adds them to the project. So it creates the project once the files are loaded, and then you just kind of go through the steps of adding in some text, saving it, saving a cover. If you wanted to make yourself a custom cover, like you can, let's say I wanted to make, if I want to edit the project, I can add more files. So let me see what else I have that I can kind of do the process one more time. Oh, I can add in the postcard. That's right. Which I only did page 1 of, but that's okay. So let me find it. So starting from the beginning, I'm not going to add page 2. I'm going to do in Acrobat, File, Export to Image, JPEG. I'm going to save that in my Behance folder that I created. and then go back in. I'm going to click Upload Files. And grab that page 1. And it's going to add it down to the bottom after everything else. So I want to click on Insert Media, and I'm going to say DES 105 Postcard Project. And then this was, 4x6? I don't think that's right. Let's go to our modules, get the exact size. To week 3. .25 by 6. And that's 20 point. I'm going to make this one 16. Created in InDesign. And I'm going to move this one, I think. So I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to click right here and reorder this project. I'm going to move my postcard up to the top. Oh, I'm going to have to bring the text with it too. And believe me, when you try to like reorganize these projects when you have a ton of them, ooh, it's a whole thing. I'll save this as my new order. And the reason why is because these go together. So it kind of makes sense to keep them together in my project. And I'll hit save. And then I'm going to go to cover, and I want to use a different cover. So I'm going to click on here. And I'm going to use the buy one, get one, but I'm going to try to crop out the bleed. Might be able to do. There we go, and done. And save. And then I can preview this. So now it looks like this. I got my BOGO postcard, which I didn't upload the blank side 2, but if your side 2 should be done, so you would upload both sides. And then I have my menu. Then I have my newsletter. And there you go. And you can even see all your other projects down at the bottom so people can get to, you know, your other projects, etc. And then just click on your face to kind of get back to the beginning. And I would also make sure that you add in something about yourself, use a nice professional picture. If you have a LinkedIn, definitely add your LinkedIn. If you have a professional Facebook page, I would add that in, don't just add in your personal Facebook page unless if you want potential employers being able to find you on Facebook. Do a little write-up about yourself. Again, make sure you're checking your spelling and your grammar. And then you can even add in your work experiences. And there's a couple of custom sections too where you can add in little things about yourself as well. And it's pretty cool because you can see your statistics. You can see how many people have viewed different projects, if people have commented or appreciated it. You can set up teams. So it's pretty awesome. I like Behance way more, as you can tell, than I like Adobe Portfolio. But I'm going to have to eventually get into the groove and get on board with Adobe Portfolio. I just don't like working in web-based programs. I find it a lot easier to actually work out of the application itself. All right, so any other questions? All right, awesome. Well, don't forget, tomorrow will be our final multi-session. So if you're having any problems, please make sure that you come to the multi-session. It will be from 4 to 6 p.m. And yeah, you guys have been a great group these last 4 weeks. So I hope to see some of your faces again. There's been times where I've had the same students multiple times, and I always love that. So I definitely hope to see you guys again. And if you remember, get in touch with me early this week if you're running into any problems. Make sure you visit the SSC if you're having any problems. And if you want to get in work for a higher grade, please do that by tomorrow at midnight. And if you have any outstanding work from weeks 1 through 3, make sure that is in by Friday at midnight. All right. Well, have a great rest of your night, everyone. And if you need any extra help, I'll see you tomorrow. No problem. All right. Have a great night.